Good to have you. Well, we begin with some breaking news. The US President Donald Trump has just posted on Truth Social warning Iran. It read, Iran promised to open the Strait of Hormuz, and they knowingly failed to do so. This caused anxiety, dislocation and pain to many people and countries throughout the world. They say they put mines in the water, even though all of their navy and most of their mine droppers have been completely blown up. They may have done so, but what ship owner would want to take the chance? There is great dishonor and permanent harm to the reputation of Iran and what's left of their leaders. But we are beyond all of that. As they promised, they better begin the process of getting this caps lock international waterway open and fast. Every law in the book is being violated by them. I have been fully debriefed by Vice President J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner on the meeting that took place in Islamabad through the kind and very competent leadership of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan. They are very extraordinary men and continuously thank me for saving 30 to 50 million lives in what would have been a horrendous war with India. I always appreciate hearing that. The amount of humanity spoken of is incomprehensible. The meeting with Iran began early in the morning and lasted throughout the night, close to 20 hours. I could go into great detail and talk about much that has been gotten, but there is only one thing that matters. Iran is unwilling to give up its nuclear ambitions. In many ways, the points that were agreed to are better than us continuing our military operations to conclusion. But all of those points don't matter compared to allowing nuclear power to be in the hands of such volatile, difficult, unpredictable people. My three representatives, as all of this time went by, became, not surprisingly, very friendly and respectful of Iran's representatives. Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, Abbas Araghchi and Ali Bagheri. But that doesn't matter because they were very unyielding as to the single most important issue. And as I have always said right from the beginning, and many years ago, Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Donald J. Trump. Well, we are live in Tehran and Islamabad, where we start with our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett. Kimberly, I was reading that for the first time. You may have been hearing that for the first time. We know that obviously Trump was dialed in multiple times during the talks in Islamabad, but what do you make of this very, very long Truth Social post promising that the Strait of Hormuz needs to be open, that the international waterway must be opened soon and fast in caps lock, and obviously reiterating the American stance that Iran must give up its nuclear ambitions. Where do we go from here?
Well, we go to what I think is the second part of Donald Trump's very lengthy and long tweet. And correct me if I'm wrong, Neve, because I'm reading this in real time just like you, but it seemed to me there were two posts in quick succession. And the second post, or the first, I'm not sure which order it came in, but I believe the second might be even more consequential than the first about the strait being open, because it starts out, so there you have it. The meeting went well. Most points were agreed to, but the only point that mattered, nuclear, was not. Leaders are dead, he goes on to say near the end of it, in Iran, but he says Iran will not be allowed to profit off the illegal act of extortion. What he means is the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz. They want money, and more importantly, they want nuclear. Additionally, and at an appropriate moment, this is key, we are fully locked and loaded, and our military will finish up the little that is left of Iran. These are the words I think are most consequential, because the U.S. president said very, very firmly before these talks, he said that if a no deal is reached, the military was loading up and would be ready to go. And so the U.S. president now has reiterated that. So this is the big fear that everyone had, is that this would just be a pause in fighting. But the U.S. president has indicated that he is ready to resume at a time and place of his choosing. So it's obviously going to be concerning, because this is going to have ramifications that go far beyond Islamabad. The fact that the U.S. president has reiterated his threat and says he is now going to carry out and finish the job of Epic Fury, the joint operation between the United States and Israel on Iran, that was started and only temporarily paused for the talks that occurred here and have resulted in no deal in Islamabad.
Kimberly, just give us a sense of the sentiment there in the wake of these high-level talks in Islamabad. Is there any perception whatsoever that there are avenues for further discussion, or is, at least when it comes to negotiations as they stand right now, have the shutters come down?
Until Donald Trump sent that post, there definitely was still the air of hope in the atmosphere here in Islamabad. Look at behind me here, or off to the side, I'm not exactly sure where in the frame the Serena Hotel is, but something historic occurred. Groups of people that have never sat face to face in decades, not since 1979, achieved that for the first time. That is being seen beyond Donald Trump as a major world diplomatic breakthrough. And we also know that there was rapport for the first time. We also know that there were teams that hung around after J.D. Vance boarded Air Force Two, along with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, to leave Islamabad. Those people were talking at the much lower level. And the hope was that this would continue, that there would be some sort of shuttle-type diplomacy between the intermediary, Pakistan, and that there would at least be able to, on the technical level, be discussions that would continue. But it's a real question now about whether or not that still stands, given the president's statements that have just come out. The U.S. president, again, making very clear, and this is something that's going to disrupt the oil markets and certainly cause energy to spike, is that he says that the one thing that mattered to the United States was making sure that Iran could never build a nuclear weapon. That was not achieved. So by all accounts, the U.S. president is saying this was a failure, even though everyone else saw the breakthrough in the discussion being a success. The U.S. president has drawn a new line saying that the U.S. military is locked and loaded and will finish up the little that is left of Iran. The threat can't be any more clear than that. And I expect that we're going to start to see the rippling ramifications, whether it's in the oil markets, whether it's in fear of escalation, is going to quickly ensue as a result of this post that really has spiked any sort of sense of hope that existed here up until moments ago.
Kimberly, we'll get the view now from Ali Hashem in Tehran on this. Ali, look, we are trying to put into context the latest Truth Social post from Donald Trump. You may have heard some of it from Kimberly Halkett there in Islamabad. It boils down to this. Trump says the US is ready to finish up Iran at a, quote, appropriate moment. We are fully locked and loaded. This, of course, off the back of a perception that the talks in Islamabad have failed. Give us a sense of what overarching message at least the Iranian negotiators are carrying back from Islamabad to their home country.
Well, the Iranian negotiators went to Islamabad saying and indicating clearly that there is a pillar of mistrust holding this tent of negotiations. And for them, what happened yesterday overnight for around 21 hours was the last possible attempt to reach a deal with the United States, though, as I told you, they went with a lot of mistrust, and the street here also holds a lot of mistrust. Now, given the fact President Trump's reaction, this is going to have its own implication also on the Iranians, because they took into consideration this is a ceasefire, this is not the end of war, and they've said this. And in the past, actually, they said they're not going for a ceasefire, they will go for an end of war, but this didn't happen. So now they're still controlling the Strait. They are repeating day after day, hour after hour, that they're not opening the Strait as far as the conditions they put for that aren't met. One of them is the issue of Lebanon and the ceasefire in Lebanon. The second is on freezing the assets. Now, I think we are outside this circle now. We are in a different circle now, dealing with a new situation, actually an old situation that's being renewed. The threat of war, the resumption of war. For Iran, this would mean back to business just like last week, and then no one knows how this is going to reach a new station or a new juncture where there's the possibility to talk once again. You know, before the war, the main issues were the nuclear issue and the ballistic issue. Now, especially in the latest talks that took place in Islamabad yesterday on this dawn, the main issue was the Strait of Hormuz, an issue that wasn't on the table even a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, what do we make of the fact that it wasn't even mentioned by J.D. Vance in this final news conference that he gave in Islamabad? I'm sure there would have been more questions put to him about that, but it wasn't among the first that were asked of him. I mean, just looking at this Truth Social post by Donald Trump in more detail, this promise to finish up Iran at an appropriate moment appears to be contingent upon the Strait of Hormuz waterway being open and open fast. Donald Trump's words. Where are we right now when it comes to Iran's leverage over the Strait of Hormuz, and whether or not in any way a compromise there might help stave off Trump promising to finish up Iran?
Well, actually, it's now clear that the epicenter of this whole conflict has shifted from the nuclear program to the Strait of Hormuz, because the Strait of Hormuz has more direct implication, not only on this region, but on the world. The weaponization of the Strait by Iran created a kind of a global energy crisis that is just accumulating day after day and reaching the houses, each house in the United States, Europe, and the whole world. At the same time, this is having more implications on the region. Iranians seem, till the moment, capable of closing the strait, or at least creating a situation of managed passage just according to whom they agree with and they disagree with. And we've seen this even yesterday, according to the maps and the programs that track the Marines. So for the Iranians, they know very well that this is their asset right now, and that's why they are insisting on continuing it. And as we've been saying before, the new Supreme Leader, Mujtaba Khamenei, mentioned the Strait for now a couple of times in two statements. And that's not only a, official decree. This is becoming for the Islamic Republic a religious decree.